So why does our weight fluctuate? Especially when it seems like you're doing all of the right things, you're going to the gym, you're following a specific diet, and you're checking in and weighing yourself every single day. But it seems like some days the scale goes up and some days it goes down and it's all over the place and it doesn't seem to make any rhyme or reason. Now, a lot of people can find this extremely frustrating, and so what I want to do today is talk about why our weight fluctuates on a day-to-day basis. Now, first things first, what a lot of people expect their weight loss journey to be like is similar to this graph. It should be a straight, continuous line, day after day after day after day. That number should always be going down and there shouldn't be any upticks going upwards or what have you. But the reality of the matter is that your weight and your weight loss journey is going to be a lot more like this. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, it's going to be all over the place. And again, it's not going to seem like it makes any kind of sense. And for some people, they're going to see some very large fluctuations, anywhere from 3 to upwards of 8 pounds per day, depending on the individual. So, what exactly is going on? And a quick spoiler alert for you, it is not fat gain. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with some of the easier or the more commonly known reasons as to why your weight will fluctuate. The first one being salt intake. Now, anybody who's ever had a McDonald's fries or pretty much anything from McDonald's will say they have experienced some bloating following that meal. And you see, what's going on here is that, well, your body is a very tightly regulated system. It's constantly keeping all of your ions, fluid levels, etc. in balance in order to prevent any kind of complications or issues for you. And your salt levels are something that are very important to keep in balance, because if they get out of whack, well, bad things like your heart stopping can ultimately happen. So, what ends up happening if you eat a lot of salt is that your body takes up that salt, and when it then detects, hey, our salt concentration is going up, what your body will do in response is it will get you to retain and hold on to a lot of fluid in order to bring that salt concentration into the right range or into the right levels to prevent bad things from happening. And it will do this for as long as it needs to until your kidneys and other filtering systems in your body get a chance to remove that salt and bring everything back down to where it needs to be. And obviously, if you're retaining a whole pile of fluid and your fingers are feeling like little sausages, well, you are retaining that fluid and ultimately that number on the scale is going to go up. The second pretty obvious one is carbohydrates or carbs. You see, your body, in particular your muscles and liver, really like carbs. Carbs are your fuel source. They are what your muscles and liver utilize in order to keep you functioning and keep you alive. And since your body likes carbs so much, it does a really good job of taking up and storing carbs so that when you're not eating, there is some energy available for you to do your day-to-day activities. And for every 1 gram of carbohydrates or glucose that your body takes up and stores, it also stores about 3 to 4 grams of water with it. Now, most of us can store upwards of about 600 grams of carbs. And so, if we have 600 grams of carbs, well, we're also storing about 1,800 grams of water with it. And so, if we add 600 plus 1,800, we get 2,400 grams in total, or 2.4 kilos, which, for those of you that use the imperial system, is about 5.3 pounds. So when you are fully carved up, or after you've had a very large carb meal, your body is going to be topped up and full of carbs, and that amount of carbs can be upwards of about 5.3 pounds of extra weight, not only with the carbs, but also with the additional water uptake. Now, this is actually one reason why people get very excited about fasting and keto and all those sorts of things, because essentially what's happening there, and the reason why you lose weight quickly, is because you're dumping that fluid and you're dumping that carbohydrate load that are in your muscles and liver, and if you're not replenishing it by eating carbs again, well, it's all going to get dumped out and flushed out of your system, and so you're going to see a large, quick drop on the scale because you've lost those carbs and that water, not because you've actually lost fat. Now, the third reason your weight can fluctuate is, well, because of poop. Now, for some of you, this might be a gross topic. For me, I talk about poop just about every single day with my patients, so I am pretty much immune to the whole topic and could eat an entire meal at this point and not be grossed out in any kind of way. But obviously it makes sense that if you haven't pooped in a while, or maybe you had a big meal the night before and haven't gone poop yet this morning, well, the number on the scale is gonna be up. And that's quite literally because you are full of shit. No pun intended on that one. Now, if for whatever reason you don't believe me, what I want you to do tomorrow morning before you have your morning glory, I want you to weigh yourself on your scale, go have that morning glory, and then re-weigh yourself and see what your weight comes in at. And if you had a big enough poop, voila, you would have lost weight and dropped the pounds and inches, and you're well on your way on your weight management journey. That is the Dr. Dan method right there for you. Now, let's talk about some of the less commonly known factors that can ultimately affect your weight. Now, the next one we're going to look at here is heat. And for anybody that's ever been out on a really hot day, enjoying the sun and living their best life, they have probably felt that their fingers and hands or feet and such like that will get quite chubby and puffy. You see, one of the ways that our body works to keep ourselves cool when it's hot out is by pushing water out into our peripheral tissue, so out into the tissues outside of the bloodstream, in order to have our water kind of act like a antifreeze that you put in your car. That water in the periphery tissue is going to draw the heat from your body and ultimately push it out to the environment to keep your internal core cool, so again, you ultimately don't die. And thus, when your body is pushing fluid out into the periphery, sometimes it needs to retain fluid so it has enough to be able to do that, and so that it can keep you cool and keep you going. And so, if your body needs to retain that fluid, well, that's going to again cause that number on the scale to go up. The next situation would be the case of dehydration, which may or may not go with heat exposure. But again, your body is a master of keeping you alive. It knows how to do it really well. And so if it detects that you're not taking in enough fluid, well, it's going to then retain and hold on to water to make sure you have enough water and fluid to be able to function. Again, holding on to fluids and then ultimately rehydrating and dumping that fluid is going to cause the scale to go up and down. And of course, as a reminder, if you're getting some kind of value out of this video and the rest of my content, don't forget to share it with all your friends and family and anybody that you think might need to see it. As well, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and check me out on my other channels at The Official Dr. Dan, and be sure to check out my website, healthevolved.co. Now, let's talk about some of the less commonly known. This next one is for the women, in that if you've ever had a menstrual cycle, you will know that you can feel bloated, and you likely have seen the scale or the number on the scale go up during that time of the week. This is perfectly normal. You see, as your body undergoes the number of hormonal fluctuations, in particular as the levels of progesterone in your body increase, this causes your body to again retain and hold on to fluid. As well, a number of women can experience some GI issues when they're having their period, everything from constipation or what have you, and that is also going to play a role in what the number on the scale is doing. The next factor here would be illness and stress. Now, has anybody here ever rolled their ankle and it got all red and swollen and everything like that and hurt like heck and you didn't want to move it? Well, you see, when your body is under a great deal of stress, the same thing ultimately happens. Except it's happening over the entirety of your body. So if you are stressed, or you are sick and down with a cold, or maybe you're not sleeping very well, all of these things are going to cause inflammation within your body. That inflammation, again, for your body to try and protect itself and such, is going to lead to you retaining and holding on to fluid, which again is going to cause the number on the scale to go up. In fact, when I was training for my bodybuilding show last November, what I actually found was that Monday through Friday, I would see the number on the scale go up or maybe just go down just slightly, but pretty much it stayed the same. And that was because I was sleeping like crap during the week, and then Saturday night I would get a full 8 hours of sleep, and when I weighed in on Sunday morning, I would drop like 3 to 4 pounds overnight. And that's because I got a good night's sleep, I brought the total inflammation in my body down, and that caused that fluid to be dropped and no longer be retained, at least for that day. Now, one of the final factors that can definitely play a role in how our body will fluctuate in terms of our weight is whether you are going to the gym and working out, in particular if you're doing some form of resistance training, which may include weight training. Now, there is a couple of things that are going on here. Yes, your body can be gaining muscle if you're going from 0 to 100 and starting to work out suddenly, but generally gaining muscle takes some time. What's happening more likely in the interim are two other things. The first thing being is that when you work out and you put your muscles under load, what you ultimately do is you cause a bunch of micro tiny little tears at the level of your muscle. We call this like a controlled tear. So it's not like you're tearing the entire muscle and causing a huge injury. It's that you're causing a little bit of a few micro tears so that the muscle can regrow and grow back stronger. And so obviously, if you're causing a tear at the level of the muscle, when we cause tears, when we cause damage, that's going to create inflammation. Just like that rolled ankle that's all red and swollen and never going to actually get back to normal, it seems like, you are doing that with your muscles on a very small micro level. And so you are creating inflammation at the level of the muscle that was worked, and ultimately that is again going to cause fluid retention. The bigger the muscle that you worked in that workout, the more fluid retention that's going to occur. So if you did legs and your legs are really sore, yeah, you're going to be holding more fluid because your muscles in your legs are so darn big. The second thing that's happening here is that your body is going to prepare for the next workout. You see, on a day-to-day basis, your body has figured out what is a good amount of carbohydrates and energies to have on board so that you can do the current daily activities that you're engaging in. But if you suddenly decide to add in working out a couple of times a week and this becomes a regular thing, suddenly your body's going to be like, whoa, what are we doing here? We don't have enough energy for each of these workouts that we're doing, so we need to adapt, we need to change, and we need to prepare in order to get ready for the next workout session. And so what your muscles are going to do is they're going to take up more carbohydrates in order to have enough reserve energy available so that you can do your next workout successfully and continue to progress and put your body under load and etc., etc. And if you recall, every gram of carbohydrate your muscles and body take up, it's going to take at least 3 grams of water with it, and that is ultimately going to cause the number on the scale to go up. So if you are working out and you're working out hard and it's feeling great and you're getting stronger, but the number on the scale is not going down, well, don't stop doing it. You are doing so much benefit for your health, and ultimately that number on the scale is going to fluctuate and be all over the place. Your goal is to continue working at it and to continue being consistent. All right, all of that seems simple enough. That's kind of the main ways that on a day-to-day basis, the number on the scale is going to fluctuate. It's going to go up and down, and sometimes it's going to be all over the place. Ultimately, what is occurring in these situations is not that you are gaining fat. You are gaining fluid. You are getting shifts in fluid. That is what is happening. In order for you to gain a large amount of fat overnight, well, it's pretty much physiologically impossible. So please stop stressing out. Please understand that this is perfectly normal. Now, if you're kind of plugging along and ultimately you're seeing that number on the scale continually going up and up and up by little increments week over week over week, then yes, you could potentially be gaining fat. What's happening in that situation is that you are actually in a calorie surplus and not achieving a calorie deficit in order to lose weight. You see, it's not the one meal or the one weekend that's going to cause you to be fat. It's going to be the continual overconsumption of calories and food over time that's going to lead to weight gain. So, to kind of wrap things up here, I want to go over a bit of an example. And first things first, what I want to show you guys here is a list of weigh-ins on a day-to-day basis. So as you can see here, hopefully I've made it big enough for you that you can kind of see the day and the weigh-in and the numbers on the various things that were kind of happening with regards to the number on the scale. And so, by looking at these numbers, do you think this individual is gaining or losing weight? What do you think is occurring over this 15-day period? And I'm willing to bet that many of you, by looking at this list of numbers here, is probably saying this individual isn't gaining or losing. Their weight is staying exactly the same. And in fact, I would bet a lot of you would get very fixated and focused on what is happening on day 15. Suddenly they are at this 197.4, whereas the day before they were at a much lower number. In fact, how many of you would suddenly see a number like that and then choose to give up on everything that you're doing because clearly what you're doing is not working? But what if we looked at all these numbers a little bit differently? What if instead we then looked at this graph? Can you kind of see a bit of a trend that is occurring with this graph? Maybe, potentially, I'm sure many of you are probably still looking at those big spikes and getting a little bit scared and worried though. But what about now? What about when we add this little line, this trend line, what starts to appear? Clearly, the number on the scale is spiking and going up and down, up and down, and up and down, but that number or those numbers are still trending downwards. So they are still going in a downward direction. This individual is still losing weight, even though they get large spikes and large drops. Now, if this individual had just seen day 15 and decided to pack it all in and that they were done and they were no longer going to keep working on the things that they were doing, they would have ultimately missed day 16, which, as you can see, they suddenly hit a brand new low. You see, the most important thing that you need to know about weight and weight fluctuations is that these are just data points. They just provide us information on a day-to-day basis. The most important thing that we need to look at here is we need to look at the trend. Always remember, the trend is your friend. The second thing that I want you to take away from here is that you need to have patience. You need to keep working and chugging away at the little small micro changes you are making over time, because they are all adding up and they are going to ultimately lead to that number going down if you do them consistently. But you have to be patient. The third thing that y'all need to do is you need to stop using the scale as your only metric of success. You can't control that number. Yes, we talked about some weight fluctuations and stuff, but some days it's going to be like the wind blew and the scale or the number on the scale went up. And so we just need to use it as a tool and instead look at the things you can control. Things like, did you go for a walk today? Did you have more veggies on your plate at dinner? What are the other things that you are controlling that are in your direct control that you can manage and you can keep track of to give you a better metric of whether you are moving in the direction you want? All right, that is it. That is all. That is weight fluctuations, why your weight fluctuates, and a few other points there. Hopefully that was beneficial to you and gave you a much better insight as to what is going on a day-to-day basis. As always, if you got some value out of this video, please share and like the video and send it to all of your friends and family who may need to see it. As well, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, and of course, check me out on my other channels at The Official Dr. Dan. And if you happen to be in the Calgary, Alberta area, be sure to come and check out my pharmacist-led obesity clinic at Apothecary Pharmacy. And as always, you beautiful people, until next week, please remember that small tweaks lead to massive peaks.